A broke single dad fixes her Mustang, unaware she was hiding a billion-dollar empire. "You're not touching my car again until you tell me exactly what's wrong with it," Morgan Hayes demanded, arms crossed as she stood beside her teal 1966 Mustang. Snowflakes gathered on her auburn hair as she glared at the mechanic kneeling by her car's open hood. Jack Thompson glanced up from the engine, yellow work gloves marked with grease. "Look, ma'am, I didn't break your car. It was already smoking when you pulled in. The timing belt's shot, and your radiator's leaking. Convenient diagnosis from the only mechanic in—" Morgan squinted at the worn sign. "Riverdale. How much is this repair going to cost me?" Jack stood, wiping his hands on his brown leather jacket. "About $1,500, give or take." $1,500? Morgan's eyes widened. "That's highway robbery." "That's parts and labor for a vintage Mustang," Jack replied calmly. "You're welcome to call for a tow to the next town, but that's 40 miles away and there's a storm coming." A small voice called from the garage office. "Dad, I finished my math worksheet. Can we go home now? I'm hungry." Jack's expression softened. "Just a minute, Lily." He turned back to Morgan. "Look, I don't want to argue in front of my kid. Your car needs work. I can start tomorrow, but it'll take at least a week to get some of these parts." Morgan's frustration faded as she noticed the little girl with dark ponytails hugging a worn backpack. She hadn't planned on stopping in this forgotten town, but her impromptu escape from Hayes Industries' board pressure had led her here when her car started smoking. "Fine," she sighed. "Is there anywhere to stay around here?" "The Riverdale Inn, 3 blocks down. Only decent place in town." Jack scribbled on a notepad. "Here's my cell. I'll call when I know more." 20 minutes later, Morgan settled into a quaint room at the inn. Her phone buzzed with another call from Gerald, her father's assistant. She silenced it, not ready to discuss the CEO position the board was pressuring her to take following her father's heart attack. That evening, Morgan found herself at the town's only diner. 2 tables away, Jack hunched over a textbook with his daughter. "Fractions are stupid," Lily complained. "When will I ever need to know that 3/4 plus 2/3 equals whatever it equals?" "It equals—" Jack paused, clearly struggling. "Let me think. It's 17/12, which simplifies to 1 5/12, Morgan said, approaching their table. "You need to find a common denominator first." Jack looked up, surprised. "Thanks. Math isn't my strong suit." "Mine either," Lily admitted. "May I?" Morgan gestured to the empty chair. Jack hesitated, then nodded. "Sure." For the next half hour, Morgan explained fractions using French fries as visual aids. Lily laughed when Morgan demonstrated improper fractions by stuffing too many fries in her mouth. "You're way better at explaining this than Dad," Lily said. "Hey!" Jack protested, but he was smiling. As they finished, Morgan's phone rang again. Seeing Gerald's name, she excused herself and stepped outside. "The board needs an answer, Morgan," Gerald said without greeting. "Your father's condition is worse. They're making moves to replace him with an outsider if you don't step up." Morgan watched through the window as Jack helped Lily into her coat, the two sharing a private joke. For the first time in years, she felt a strange pull towards something outside the corporate world that had always defined her. "Tell them I need 1 more week," she said firmly. "I'll decide then." As she hung up, Morgan realized that her car breaking down in this small town might be the detour she never knew she needed. 3 days into her unexpected stay in Riverdale, Morgan found herself perched on a stool in Jack's garage, watching him disassemble her Mustang's engine. "Hand me that socket wrench?" Jack asked, pointing to his toolbox. Morgan passed him the wrong tool twice before getting it right. "Sorry, I've never been mechanically inclined. My father always said I was better with spreadsheets than spanners. What do you do for work?" Jack wiped grease from his forehead, leaving a dark smudge. Morgan hesitated. "Corporate consulting, helping companies maximize their potential." It wasn't exactly a lie, though she omitted that she was consulting for her family's multi-billion-dollar tech empire, Hayes Industries. "Sounds fancy." Jack said, loosening a bolt. Better than grease under your fingernails. Don't underestimate your skills. You understand how things work, how to fix them when they're broken. Morgan leaned closer to the engine. That's something I admire. Jack smiled, surprised by her sincerity. Want to learn something? Come here. For the next hour, he explained the Mustang's engine with patience usually reserved for Lily. Morgan listened intently, asking questions that revealed her quick mind. You catch on fast for a corporate type, Jack said, impressed. Their conversation was interrupted when the garage door banged open, and Lily burst in, waving a paper. Dad, the science fair is in 2 weeks, and we need to pick a project. Jack's face fell. Honey, I don't know if we have time. I could help, Morgan offered, surprising herself. I did engineering in college. Lily's eyes widened. Really? You'd help me? Sure, if your dad doesn't mind. Jack studied Morgan carefully. That's generous, but we don't need charity. It's not charity, Morgan replied. It's friendship. Besides, I'm stuck here until my car's fixed. Later that afternoon, Morgan and Lily sat at the diner sketching designs for a solar-powered miniature car. Jack joined them after closing the garage, watching in amazement as Morgan explained concepts he'd never understood in a way that had Lily nodding enthusiastically. Where'd you learn all this? He asked as they walked back to the inn. My father, Morgan admitted. He built his company on innovation. He always told me to understand how things work before trying to lead people who make them. Jack nodded. Smart man. He is, Morgan said softly, thinking of her father's hospital bed. Though sometimes I wonder if I'm the right person to carry on his legacy. Before Jack could respond, a sleek black car pulled up beside them. Gerald stepped out, his tailored suit absurdly formal for Riverdale's main street. Miss Hayes, we need to talk. Morgan stiffened. Gerald, what are you doing here? Jack looked between them, confused. I'll catch up with you later, Morgan told Jack quickly. Science fair planning tomorrow? Once Jack and Lily were out of earshot, Morgan turned on Gerald. You shouldn't have come. The board gave you 2 weeks, Morgan. Either you return and accept the CEO position, or they move forward with external candidates. Your father's legacy, everything he built, could end up in the hands of people who don't share his vision. Morgan crossed her arms against the cold. I needed space to think. In this place? Gerald gestured around dismissively. Yes, in this place, Morgan snapped, where people fix things instead of replacing them, where a single dad works himself to exhaustion to give his daughter a future. Gerald's expression softened. You like him. That's not relevant. It is if it's affecting your judgment. Gerald checked his watch. I'm staying at the Hampton Inn 40 miles from here. Call me when you're ready to discuss this seriously. As Gerald drove away, Morgan stood in the gently falling snow, torn between two worlds. For the first time, the position she'd been groomed for her entire life felt less appealing than helping a little girl build a science project in a town whose name she hadn't known a week ago. You don't actually need to help with inventory, Jack said, as Morgan handed him labeled boxes from the garage's storage loft. I'm sure you have better things to do. Better than discovering you have 17 distributor caps for cars that haven't been manufactured since 1992? Morgan teased. Absolutely not. A week had passed since Gerald's appearance, and Morgan had extended her stay, claiming the parts for her Mustang were still on back order. In reality, they'd arrived 3 days ago, but Jack hadn't rushed the repair, and she hadn't asked him to. Tony's usually my inventory partner, but she's down with the flu. Jack climbed down the ladder, taking the last box from Morgan. Lucky me. Their hands touched briefly, and neither pulled away immediately. Their moment was interrupted when Tony's voice called from the office. Jack, those financial statements are on your desk for review, and they're not pretty. Morgan followed Jack into the cramped office, noticing how his shoulders tensed as he reviewed the papers. Third notice? She asked quietly, glimpsing the bank letterhead. Jack quickly shuffled the papers away. Nothing to worry about. Jack, the Winter Festival Committee is meeting at the community center tonight, he interrupted, clearly changing the subject. Riverdale's biggest event of the year. You should come. See how locals have fun." That evening, Morgan found herself sorting decorations with a group of townspeople who'd quickly accepted her as one of their own. "We need someone to coordinate the lighting display," announced Sarah, the committee head. "Any volunteers?" When no one raised their hand, Morgan spoke up. "I could help. I did event planning in college." "Perfect." Sarah handed her a clipboard. "Jack, show Morgan the supply closet. We've got lights from the last 5 years in there, but nobody knows what works." In the dimly lit storage room, Jack and Morgan sorted through tangled strands of colored lights. "So what do corporate consultants usually do on Friday nights?" Jack asked, testing a string of blue bulbs. "Attend charity galas where everyone's trying to network. Eat tiny appetizers that cost more than dinner for a family of 4. Morgan smiled ruefully. "This is better. Hard to believe you prefer small-town chaos." "I like the authenticity," she admitted. "No one here cares about my family name or connections." Jack looked curious. "Are those things important where you're from?" Morgan realized her slip. More than they should be. They worked side by side, shoulders occasionally touching in the cramped space. When Morgan successfully untangled a particularly knotted bundle, Jack laughed and impulsively reached to brush a strand of hair from her face. "Sorry," he said, pulling back. "Don't be." Morgan's voice was barely audible. The radio in the corner switched to a slow song, and Jack hesitated before extending his hand. "Care to learn how small-town people dance?" "I'd like that." He placed one hand gently on her waist, taking her hand with the other. "Just follow my lead." They swayed in the small space between boxes, the colored lights casting patterns across their faces. As Jack leaned closer, the storage room door burst open. "Dad! Mrs. Peterson said I can sell hot chocolate at the festival if you help," Lily announced, oblivious to the moment she'd interrupted. The science fair arrived the following week. Lily's solar car, far more sophisticated than her classmates' project, won first place. As the local newspaper photographer captured them celebrating, Morgan, Jack, and Lily beaming with shared pride, Morgan felt a sense of belonging she'd never experienced in the corporate world. What she didn't notice was the photographer's puzzled expression as he studied her face, certain he'd seen it somewhere important. That night, Jack walked Morgan back to the inn. "I'm planning something special tomorrow," he said. "There's a spot by the lake where you can see the northern lights. They're forecasting a rare showing." "Are you asking me on a date, Jack Thompson?" "I believe I am, Morgan Hayes." He smiled, unaware of how meaningful her full name would soon become. As Morgan watched him walk away, her phone buzzed with another message from Gerald. "Board meeting Tuesday. Decision required." For the first time in her life, Morgan was torn between duty and desire, between the path planned for her and the one she was discovering step by step. Moonlight reflected off the frozen lake as Jack spread a blanket over the hood of his truck. Above them, green and purple ribbons of light danced across the night sky. "I've never seen anything like this," Morgan whispered, eyes fixed upward. "Riverdale's best-kept secret." Jack's voice was soft beside her. The northern lights only reached this far south a few times a year. They sat side by side on the truck hood, a thermos of hot chocolate between them. Jack had packed a picnic basket with sandwiches, though Lily had insisted on adding her special cookies that were oddly misshapen, but made with unmistakable love. "This view makes corporate boardrooms seem very far away," Morgan said. "Is that where you'd be otherwise? In boardrooms?" Morgan nodded slowly. "My father built something important, something that helps people. He always expected me to continue his work." "And is that what you want?" "I thought it was." Morgan turned to face him. "Now I'm not so sure." Jack studied her face in the ethereal light. "What changed?" "I came to Riverdale." Morgan's voice caught. "I met you and Lily." Jack's hand found hers on the blanket, his work-roughened fingers intertwining with hers. With gentle hesitation, he leaned forward until their lips met. The kiss was tentative at first, then deepened as Morgan's hand moved to his cheek. When they broke apart, Jack smiled. "I wasn't planning on that happening quite yet. I was hoping it would," Morgan admitted. They stayed by the lake for hours, talking about everything and nothing. Lily's future, Jack's dreams for the garage, the stars above them. Neither mentioned Morgan's eventual departure. For one perfect night, it seemed possible that two people from different worlds could find a common path. The illusion shattered the next morning. Jack was serving breakfast to Lily when Tony burst through the door of their small house, clutching a magazine. "Jack, you need to see this." She slapped the latest issue of Business Weekly on the table. The cover featured a professional photo of Morgan in a business suit, alongside the headline, "Hayes Heiress Found, Billion-Dollar Baby Hiding in Small Town." Jack stared at the image, then at the smaller inset photo showing Morgan with him and Lily at the science fair. His coffee mug slipped from his fingers, splattering across the kitchen floor. "Dad?" Lily looked concerned. "Finish your breakfast, kiddo." Jack's voice was tight. "We need to get you to school." After dropping Lily off, Jack drove straight to the garage. Morgan was already there, pacing outside the locked doors. "Jack, I can explain." He unlocked the door without looking at her. "Were you planning to tell me who you really are? Or was this just some kind of billionaire's vacation?" Morgan followed him inside. "That's not fair." "Not fair?" Jack laughed bitterly, tossing the magazine onto the workbench. "Hayes Industries. Your family owns half the tech patents in the country. Your annual revenue is more than this entire town will see in a century. My name doesn't change who I am. It changes everything." Jack slammed his palm against the wall. "You watched me struggle with bills, stress about Lily's school tuition, worry about losing this garage. Was it entertaining to watch the poor mechanic scrape by?" Morgan's eyes filled with tears. "It wasn't like that. I needed space to think. My father had a heart attack. The board wants me to take over as CEO, and I ran away to figure out what I wanted, and found a quaint little project along the way." Jack's voice hardened. "Let me guess, single dad mechanic and his adorable daughter made for a heartwarming distraction? You're not a project, Jack." Morgan reached for his arm, but he pulled away. "What happened between us was real. Was it? Because the Morgan I knew didn't exist. She was just a character you played. I never pretended to be someone I wasn't. No, you just conveniently left out that you're heir to a billion-dollar empire." From the garage doorway, a small voice asked, "Is Morgan leaving?" They turned to find Lily standing there, school backpack still on her shoulders. She must have walked from school during lunch break. "Lily, Morgan began. "You should go," Jack interrupted. "Your real life is waiting." Lily's face crumpled. "But what about my science project? You promised to help me build the next version." Morgan knelt down. "Sometimes grown-ups have responsibilities they can't walk away from, even when they want to. Like Dad has to work even when he's tired? Something like that." As Morgan gathered her belongings from the inn that afternoon, her phone rang continuously with calls from board members and her father's doctors. She answered none of them. When the taxi arrived to take her to the airport, she looked back at Riverdale's main street, at the garage where Jack was probably working, at the school where Lily was, learning. For a woman who could buy practically anything, she was leaving behind the only things that money couldn't purchase. 3 weeks after returning to the city, Morgan sat in a glass-walled conference room surrounded by executives in expensive suits. Outside the window, skyscrapers stretched toward clouds that looked nothing like the ones above Riverdale. "The rural market remains untapped," droned the marketing director. "Small-town America represents significant expansion potential." Morgan's attention snapped back to the meeting. "What kind of presence are we considering in these communities?" "Minimal physical footprint," the director replied. "We'd extract value without substantial investment in infrastructure." "Extract value?" Morgan repeated. "You mean take their money without giving anything back?" The room fell silent. Since her return, Morgan had challenged standard practices with uncomfortable questions. The board members exchanged glances that suggested they were reconsidering their push for her to become CEO. Gerald cleared his throat. "Perhaps we should discuss the quarterly projection." As numbers flashed across the screen, Morgan's mind drifted to Jack's garage, the careful way he'd balance books at night after Lily went to sleep, making painful decisions about which bills to pay first. What about establishing innovation centers? Morgan interrupted. Smaller facilities in economically struggling areas. We create jobs. They provide diverse perspectives we're missing. That would significantly increase operational costs, the CFO objected, and potentially create lasting value. Morgan countered. We've been treating rural communities as markets to exploit rather than partners to develop. After the meeting, Gerald followed Morgan to her office. The board is concerned about your focus. The board wants a rubber stamp, not a leader. Morgan stared out her window. Did you get the information I requested? Gerald placed a folder on her desk. Everything about Riverdale's economic situation. The town's facing a crisis. That developer's resort project would essentially erase the community as it exists now. Morgan paged through the documents, stopping at a notice of foreclosure for Thompson's garage. Jack never mentioned how bad things were. Pride, Gerald suggested. Something you two have in common. Morgan ignored the comment. Hayes Industries has been looking for a headquarters for our new rural technology initiative. What if we picked Riverdale? Because of a mechanic? Because it makes business sense, Morgan insisted. Lower operating costs, tax incentives for rural development, distance from our competitors. Plus, we'd be first to market in an overlooked region. And the fact that you left your heart there has nothing to do with it? Morgan didn't answer, instead studying the development plans that would destroy Riverdale's downtown, including Jack's garage. Meanwhile, in Riverdale, Jack stood before a crowded town hall. Residents packed the seats, their faces reflecting the same concern he felt. The developers planned to buy every property from Main Street to River Road, he explained, pointing to a map. Our businesses would be gone, replaced by boutiques and spas for wealthy vacationers. What choice do we have? Asked Sarah from the festival committee. Half our shops are already struggling. We fight, Jack insisted. This town has survived floods, economic downturns, and the factory closure. We can find another way. After the meeting, Tony confronted him outside. That was an inspiring speech, but you're forgetting something. Your garage is weeks away from foreclosure. How can you save the town when you can't save your own business? Jack ran a hand through his hair. I'm working on it. Have you considered calling her? Morgan made her choice. Did she? Or did you make it for her? Tony shook her head. You were so quick to believe she was using you that you never considered she might have been finding herself. That night, Jack found Lily sitting on her bed, holding the science fair trophy. Morgan's not coming back, is she? Lily asked. Jack sat beside her. No, sweetheart. Her life is different from ours. Did she leave because of something I did? No. Jack pulled her close. Morgan cares about you. She just has responsibilities in the city. Like you have responsibilities to me? Jack nodded, suddenly questioning his own rigid thinking. He'd been so afraid of being someone's charity case that he'd refused to consider Morgan might have genuine feelings for both him and Lily. Later, after Lily fell asleep, Jack found Morgan's number on an old invoice. He dialed, but reached only her voicemail. Too proud to leave a message, he hung up. The next evening, Jack stood before the town again, this time facing both concerned citizens and representatives from the development company. Mayor Green presided over the meeting, though rumors suggested he'd already accepted a position with the developers. Mr. Thompson claims to have alternative solutions, the mayor announced skeptically. Let's hear them. Jack took a deep breath. We've approached local banks about community development loans. We've contacted state agencies about historic preservation grants. But the truth is, we need more time. Time won't change the economic realities, responded a developer in an expensive suit. Our offer is generous and expires in 30 days. As murmurs of defeat spread through the crowd, the back door of the town hall opened. Jack's heart stopped when he saw Morgan walk in, dressed not in the casual clothes she'd worn in Riverdale, but in a sharp business suit that declared her true identity. She moved with confidence to the front of the room, her eyes meeting Jack's briefly before she addressed the crowd. "I believe Riverdale deserves more than 30 days and more than this developer's vision," she said clearly. "Hayes Industries would like to present an alternative." Silence fell over the town hall as Morgan stepped forward, all eyes fixed on the woman they'd known as just another visitor, now revealed as a corporate powerhouse. "Hayes Industries proposes establishing our new Rural Innovation Center here in Riverdale," Morgan announced, her voice steady despite Jack's stunned expression. "We'd create 60 technology and manufacturing jobs initially, with training programs for local residents." The developer scoffed. "Ms. Hayes, with all due respect, this town lacks the infrastructure for a tech center." "That's why we'd build it," Morgan countered, "without displacing existing businesses. We don't want to replace Riverdale's character. We want to enhance it." Excited whispers spread through the crowd. Mayor Green seemed flustered. "This is highly irregular. The development agreement hasn't been signed," Morgan finished. "I've spoken with your town attorney." For 40 minutes, Morgan presented Hayes Industries' vision: renewable energy installation, high-speed internet infrastructure, educational partnerships with the local school. The community center would be renovated, not demolished. Downtown businesses would remain, supplemented by new ones, not replaced. As the meeting adjourned, townspeople surrounded Morgan with questions and thanks. Jack stood apart, watching her handle each person with genuine interest and respect. When the crowd finally dispersed, he approached her. "Can we talk?" he asked quietly. "At the garage?" They walked in uncomfortable silence through streets Jack had known his entire life, streets that Morgan had somehow saved in a single evening. Inside the garage, Jack turned on a single light. Morgan's Mustang sat in the corner, fully repaired, but unused since her departure. "You could have called before riding in like a corporate cavalry," Jack said finally. "Would you have answered?" Jack's silence confirmed her suspicion. "I didn't do this for you," Morgan said. "I did it because it made business sense, and because Riverdale deserves better than becoming a playground for the wealthy." "Is that the only reason?" Morgan's professional facade cracked slightly. "No." Jack leaned against a workbench. "I found something while fixing your car. The vehicle registration history." He pulled a worn document from a drawer. "This Mustang was originally purchased in Cincinnati in 1966. 20 years ago, it was registered in Pittsburgh to Catherine Mills." Morgan looked confused. "I don't understand." "Catherine Mills was my wife's maiden name. Kathy tracked this exact car for years, dreamed of restoring it. She found it listed for sale right before she got sick. But we couldn't afford it then." Jack's voice grew rough. "Somehow, it ended up with you." "Jack, I had no idea." "I know," he sighed. "But it feels like more than coincidence that you broke down here, in this town, with this car." They stood in silence, surrounded by tools and parts, the air between them charged with unspoken emotion. "Coffee tomorrow?" Jack finally offered. "We could start over." "I'd like that." Over the following weeks, Morgan divided her time between corporate headquarters and Riverdale as Hayes Industries began the Innovation Center development. She rented a small house near the town square, determined to prove her commitment wasn't just professional. Jack approached their renewed relationship with caution, allowing Lily to spend time with Morgan while maintaining emotional distance himself. The walls he'd built began to crumble when he saw Morgan helping Lily prepare for the school talent show, patiently teaching her the scientific principles behind her demonstration of magnetic levitation. On the night of the performance, Jack arrived early to help set up. He found Morgan and Lily backstage, heads bent together in last-minute preparation. "What if I mess up?" Lily worried. "Then you'll figure it out," Morgan assured her. "That's what scientists do." "Will you come back to the city after this?" Lily asked suddenly. Jack paused, hidden from view but able to hear their conversation. Morgan knelt to Lily's level. "I'll always have responsibilities at the company headquarters, but I've decided to base myself here in Riverdale. This is where my heart is now. With me and Dad." Morgan hesitated. "Your dad and I are still figuring things out. But yes, You're both important reasons why I want to stay." Jack stepped forward, making his presence known. "The audience is arriving." Lily hurried off to join her classmate, leaving Jack and Morgan alone. "Did you mean what you said?" Jack asked. "About staying?" "Every word." Morgan met his gaze. "I'm not asking for anything, Jack. I just want you to know that what happened between us was real for me. It still is." After Lily's successful performance, the three of them walked through the parking lot toward Jack's truck. They passed the Mustang, which Morgan had started driving again. "Wait here," Jack told them, jogging to his truck. He returned with a small box in his hand. "I've been carrying this around for 2 weeks, waiting for the right moment." He opened the box, revealing a simple vintage ring. "It was my grandmother's, nothing fancy compared to what you're used to." Morgan's eyes widened. "Jack, let me finish." He took a deep breath. "I don't have a billion-dollar empire. I have grease under my fingernails and a garage that's barely staying afloat. But I love you. Not the Hayes heiress, but the woman who helped my daughter with fractions and danced with me in a storage closet. That's the only woman I want to be." Morgan whispered. "Then marry me. Help me raise Lily. We'll figure out how to bridge your world and mine." With snowflakes beginning to fall around them, just like the day they'd met, Morgan gave him her answer in the form of a kiss that promised a future neither of them had imagined before a broken-down Mustang brought them together. 5 years after a teal Mustang broke down in a snowstorm, Riverdale had transformed into a thriving community where tradition and innovation coexisted harmoniously. The Hayes-Thompson Innovation Center celebrated its anniversary with a town-wide picnic on the grounds of a renovated farmhouse halfway between town and the lake, the home that Jack and Morgan had built together. The original garage still stood downtown, expanded now to house the center's automotive division, where classic cars were restored with sustainable technology under Jack's expert direction. A steady stream of collectors brought vintage vehicles from across the country, drawn by the unique combination of traditional craftsmanship and cutting-edge engineering. "Dad, the Cunningham's Corvette is ready for the test drive," called 13-year-old Lily, now tall and confident. Her dark hair pulled back in a practical ponytail as she emerged from the garage workshop. Unlike many teenagers, she showed no sign of outgrowing her fascination with mechanics and engineering, taking community college courses while still in middle school. "Already?" Jack wiped his hands on a rag, the same work-roughened hands that had first fixed Morgan's car, though they now wore a simple platinum wedding band. "I thought we were still waiting on the solar panel integration. Morgan helped me finish it yesterday." Lily beamed with pride. "We improved the design. It's 15% more efficient than our last conversion." Jack smiled, still amazed at how seamlessly Morgan balanced her corporate responsibilities with their family life and technical work. She'd kept her promise, establishing her primary office at the Innovation Center while traveling to corporate headquarters only when absolutely necessary. As evening approached, guests began arriving for the anniversary celebration. The Innovation Center employees and their families mingled with longtime Riverdale residents, the distinctions between newcomers and locals having faded over the years. Tony Martinez, now the center's operations manager, directed the catering team while her husband grilled locally sourced burgers. Mayor Sarah, who had replaced Green after his development deal collapsed, chatted with visiting state officials about Riverdale's economic revival model. Jack searched the crowd for Morgan, finally spotting her sitting on the hood of their restored Mustang at the edge of the property. She gazed at the sunset, their 6-month-old son cradled against her shoulder. "There's my favorite view," Jack said, approaching them. Morgan smiled, the same smile that had first caught his attention across a diner table 5 years earlier. Just giving little Robert some quiet time before the speeches. Jack sat beside them, gently touching his son's dark hair. They'd named him after Morgan's father, who had lived long enough to walk her down the aisle and see the Innovation Center's groundbreaking before passing peacefully the previous year. "Remember the first time we watched a sunset together?" Morgan asked. Northern Lights by the frozen lake. Jack nodded. I was terrified to kiss you. And now look at us. She leaned against his shoulder. The billionaire heiress and the broke mechanic who fixed more than just my car. I was never really broke, Jack mused. Just cash poor and stubborn. You're still stubborn, Morgan laughed. Little Robert stirred, blinking up at them with curious eyes that held the same determination Jack had seen in Lily since she was born. He's going to be a handful, Jack observed. With our combined stubbornness? Definitely. From the main house, Lily called out to them. They're ready for the speeches. Morgan, you're up first. Duty calls, Morgan sighed, passing Robert to Jack. Hold our son while I go talk about sustainable rural development. Actually, Jack said, I've been thinking, what if we take that road trip we've been putting off? Drive the Mustang down the coast, show Lily those engineering colleges she's researching, let this little guy see the ocean. You want to take time off? That's new. 5 years ago, I thought working every possible hour was the only way to give Lily a future. Jack smiled. You showed me there's more than one path forward. As they walked back toward the celebration, the restored Mustang gleamed in the fading light, a symbol of the unexpected detour that had changed both their lives. Morgan, once trapped by her corporate identity, had found purpose in balancing business success with community impact. Jack, once defined by struggle and sacrifice, had discovered that accepting help didn't diminish his strength. And Lily, raised with both Jack's practical resilience and Morgan's visionary thinking, was forging her own path that combined the best of both worlds. The family that started with a broken-down car in a snowstorm now moved forward together, navigating life's highways and back roads with confidence, knowing that sometimes the most important journeys begin with a necessary breakdown and an unexpected repair.